Hi, and welcome back to Trust and Obey with Chuck, Frank, and our special guest and one of the Queen's favorites, Rocky Rochford. Now we're going to get into the second part of this, and that is what is going on in elections in Florida. So you're the GOP candidate for Florida District 14, which is Hillsborough County and Pinellas County, right?
Yes.
Okay, and this is the 2024 election, and you're fighting against an incumbent who's got 5 times the money that you have.
Yes.
And somehow, by force of will, you've gotten this down to a close race by the time we're getting close to Election Day. Is that true?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, on Election Day, I was with Senator Rick Scott and Representative Anna Luna, and Anna got a text from D.C. Drano, and he said Rocky looks like he's going to be the upset that nobody saw coming. All the numbers, all the indicators are pointing to Rocky is going to win, and I mean it was at that moment in time, I had already won.
Right. So at what point are you tracking things that night and you think, okay, something's up?
So I held a watch party at Shriners down on 50th Street and Adamo Drive, right on the Hillsborough River. It's a brand new facility for them, and so we did a watch party there, and the polls close at 7, and then they shortly after that, I get a text from a friend, and he says NBC called it for Castor. So I'm like, what are you talking about? They're not even showing. I go to the website for Hillsborough County. They haven't published anything. They're all zeros. They hadn't even put out any, and NBC called it. I was in shock, and then slowly but surely we saw the as the results came out. So I mean the beauty of what this election was is that the in-person voting and early voting, I was right there. It was the mail-in ballots that overtook me. And then so on my way, because I was obviously very disappointed, because we had done so much, and Jamie Ariano, my campaign manager, had worked so hard, and we ran an honest campaign. My background doesn't. I mean, I give back the wrong change when you used to have change at the supermarket, and it was completely unexpected. I was confident that we had reached out to the right communities. The Hillsborough County, which now is red, they just went red. I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, and I lost my train of thought. So the breakdown here in Hillsborough County is 40% white, but the Latino and Hispanic community is 40% too, right, which is surprising. So we had been focused on the Latino and Hispanic communities because of the fact that I am very anti-socialist, anti-communist.
Right.
And I told these people that when I get into Congress, not only am I going to fight socialism here at home, but right where it lives and breathes.
Right.
And how are you going to do that? Well, we're gonna with help of the executive branch, we're going to put some very stringent controls on against those countries and make these dictators just suffer.
Right.
So there's a whole bunch of other things, but anyway, so on my way home, I called someone who's been helping our campaign, He's a retired Navy chief. He is a certified auditor for the Department of Defense. And he said, boss, he says, I've already found where things went awry. So we started to look into it and dig further into it. And I mean, we had within probably 48 hours of the election, we had numbers of what went wrong. So fraud, there was an awful lot of fraud that occurred in the election. What was the fraud? The fraud was two ways. First is the state maintains a record of all of the absentee ballot requests. It's called the absentee ballot report, and it's maintained up in Tallahassee. And every supervisor of election in the state has to submit their numbers for the week on Mondays.
Right.
And that's by day, et cetera, et cetera. So in that report, the last two columns, because under Florida law, in order to receive a request by mail ballot, you must provide A, your driver's license number. If you don't have a driver's license and you have a Florida ID,
Right.
you can use your Florida ID as well, or the last four of your social security number.
Right.
So the last two columns in that report says, which one did you provide? So one of the columns has to have a Y. What happens when both columns are no's? So what we were able to determine is that across the entire election, 592,000 times there was a request for a vote by mail ballot with no identification. And it was issued. And of the 592,000, 400 and something thousand were returned, processed, and counted illegally. So
when you say substantial irregularities, that's an understatement.
it is an understatement. So that's one type of fraud. The other fraud is called cloning. And so I have a lawyer. His name is Peter Tickton.
Yep.
And Peter, just a great guy. He went to high school at the New York Military Academy with President Trump. They were roommates. And he's still very good friends with him today. And he does a lot of very good things to help President Trump. Like he put together the list of the J6ers that that needed to be released, and so he did all that. And although it's not complete, Jeremy Brown, we're still working on getting Jeremy Brown home. He's in Atlanta right now, and what they've said is that there were two different cases against him, and one was for J6 and the other was in the state of Florida. But the search warrant for the state of Florida says, what's the topic? J6ers. So their argument is not valid.
Right.
Because they said they found a hand grenade, but they've done DNA testing on the hand grenade, and there's
They were
no
planted
yeah. So there
by
was
the
no
FBI.
there was no DNA, and they found a dog hair on the hand grenade. Wasn't his dog. So this is all of a sudden that insurrection starts to have asterisks next to it, and now serious question marks. So that's what Peter Tickton does, and so Peter represents me, and we have two cases right now. One is with the state of Florida, and the state of Florida cannot overturn an election, not at the House. At the U.S. House level. The U.S. House is the only one who can do that. It's written into the Constitution, and it's called the Federal Contested Elections Act. And it's been used a number of times over the years. And my package is up with the clerk, and I talked to the counsel for the clerk yesterday, and she said the package has been delivered to the committee who oversees this. and they've already reviewed it last week, and they're continuing their review. So
you're hoping for an investigation,
yes,
right?
that's right.
Okay,
That's what we want. I'm not an expert in forensic I'm not a forensic analyst. I'm not an expert in any of this. What we have found, though, is my friend who is a DOD auditor. So that document, he downloaded it legally. He had permission to download it and sort it. That's all he did. So if you think of there's a vault. The padlock was open. The code was open, and the door was open, and he reached in and took the report out. Because I've been asked, I've been going on the road here trying to tell people what's going on and ask for their help in standing up and follow me and get involved. Call your congressman, call your senators. We need a lot of attention to this. To overturn it. So the state can't overturn it. Only the House can. So the state petition that we sent into the court was actually Peter rewrote it and amended it, and it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. So what we're looking for is the judge to say yes, there was fraud. I don't need anything else. That's it. That's what we need from that judge. With that information, we can then go to Pam Bondi. We can go to Kash Patel. Actually, Pam Bondi would probably go to Kash Patel.
Right.
And provide that information, because the goal of what the president wants is to wipe the voter rolls clean and start fresh.
Right.
Because they are a disaster. So the second type of fraud I was telling you about is cloning. So what is cloning? Cloning is they reproduce you as a registered voter, and all of the information is about the same for you, with one minor exception. And normally we see the date of the month you were born is moved, and that's so they can differentiate between the clone and the real you. So what they have is
So the month and the year are the same. It's just the day.
Right.
They move it one digit.
They move it something.
And then they've created a whole different voter.
Right. And so they have hidden code in the voter rolls that hides these clones. Mm-hmm. And they can unhide it when they want to and have the clones vote. And then they put the clone back to sleep. So Peter hired a guy who wrote an algorithm that identifies when you run the voter rolls through the algorithm.
Identifies the clones?
Yep.
Oh, wow. And that's why Peter believes that this is happening in every county in Florida.
Every state. They already ran New York through the algorithm, over 2 million clones.
Wow.
They've already run somewhere else. I don't remember. But Florida is in progress.
So the suspicion is that Dems have multiple ways to cheat the election.
Yeah.
Cloning is one.
Yep.
And most people have never heard of it.
Right.
And the second one is the mail-in ballots, which, I think the majority of Americans, if I look at the polling, they think that the 2020 election was not right because of mail-in ballots. So, and even in your numbers, the 2020 elections in Florida, the numbers are way higher.
So, of the 592,000 ballots that were requested illegally because of no identification provided, it primarily happened on only 2 days. Wow. So, September the 9th, in Pinellas County only
one day,
198,000 ballots requested without identification. Of the 198,000, about 167,000 were cast. They were returned completed. The state accepted them and counted them. Fast forward 4 days, Miami-Dade County, 242,000 absentee ballots requested with no identification, of which I think it's like in the 170s range. I don't remember. But why is it important that I bring up Miami-Dade? Is because people have said it was just a mistake. It was just an anomaly. It was just an oversight on somebody's part. No, because it was 198,000 in one day. How does the system can't process it?
Right.
You can't take in that many phone calls. The system can't handle that many people one day. So the only way to deliver those requests would be to break into the system and do a data dump and dump all these names in. And when we thought, we were all worried, and it was probably a pretty good idea from the other side to have us think that they were going to be all illegal aliens voting.
That's what I thought.
All these people just don't exist. And when you would go back to the cloning for a second, we've seen clones from person being cloned once, sometimes twice. Maximum we found is 9. Same person.
Just changing the birthday.
So,
and let's go to Pinellas. Let's just look at that as a microcosm.
Okay.
198 plus thousand ballots.
Mm-hmm.
How does that physically happen at Pinellas County? I'm saying this because, I moved down here from New York City. And one of the things on my bucket list was I wanted to get involved in the election process. So I got involved in early voting. That's how I met Steve Emerson. And then got trained and hired and deputized by Hillsborough County to be a poll inspector. And they were extremely serious, I would say serious as a heart attack, about checking every single component that had to do with making sure that the person who wants to vote has the proper ID and it matches their address. And there's all this cross-relating. And people ask me, that look up and up, as opposed to New York City, where it was against the law to ask for an ID in order to vote. This was the exact opposite and exactly what I was looking for. So now, how does this happen in Pinellas County? There's somebody who has to say, yes, I'm accepting these with no ID, when you've got systems in place to kick those out for not having one of the 3 numbers that you're talking about. A driver's license number that matches, a Florida ID that matches, the last 4 of the Social Security number.
So every supervisor of elections in Florida has this program that attaches to the voter rolls, and it won't allow you to issue a ballot if you didn't provide ID or social. And the problem with that system is that it has an ON-OFF switch. And so I don't know if they hacked in. I don't know if I don't know. I'm not the analyst. What I'm trying to do is highlight the fact that, look, this is fraud. There's no question.
Right.
It's impossible to have been a mistake because it happened only twice with massive numbers on 2 different days in only 2 different counties.
Right.
Now, when you add up Pinellas and Miami-Dade, they don't come to 592. There's about 150,000 ballots.
Too many.
That were the rest of the state,
right,
including Hillsborough County, that had about 4,000 ballots. So the protection system, the protection systems that are supposed to be in place to control the ballots failed. So not only do you can't count the ballots that were illegally requested and illegally issued, but you can't count on the ballots that were issued on days when illegal ballots were issued, because you don't know the controls. They were malfunctioning, or they were off, or they were hacked or something. So you have to remove all of those ballots. So the outcome with the U.S. House of Representatives in my case up there will be up to the committee. They will decide whether or not I deserve. There's enough evidence to prove my case, and then they will. The three options are they will have a blind eye on it, and and that would be a travesty, and nothing happens.
Does DeSantis know about this?
We have tried very hard to get, and I believe that he is aware of what's going on, and we have, because we've sent enough documentation to his assistant to get it up there, and the Florida Department of Law Enforcement has a division that does election integrity and fraud, and they are investigating this, because that was the third prong that we used in all of this. Was we went to a lawyer independent of anything else, not Peter Tickton, is an entirely different lawyer. Matter of fact, she works for Pastor Rodney Brown with the River Church, the mega church.
The guy who got arrested.
Yeah. So he loaned me her. So she as a prosecutor, when we started off, she said, "Show me the evidence." And so we walked through it, and she said, "This is fraud." And so she took the package and went up to Tallahassee and brought it to these folks, and they are investigating. What's the status? Have no idea. So one outcome is they do nothing. Another outcome is that there was enough fraud, and they say Rocky won, and they will remove Castor from her seat and give me my chair that I legitimately
That's
earned.
after the investigation.
Yes.
Okay.
But the investigation is not going to, this should be all done in a couple of months. And then the third outcome potentially is a special election. Start all over.
So does Rick Scott know that this is going on?
He surely does.
Does Pam Bondi know that this is going on?
From what I understand, she has been briefed on it.
She's been briefed on it.
Yep. Matter of fact, the president, Peter Tickton, sends notes to the president, and the president knows about my case. He's familiar with what's going on, but he's letting the system run its course. So now we sit back and we wait, but now that I know that the House committee that's overseeing this has my package. Now I got to make noise. I got to get people up, stand up and jump up and down with me to say, we can't let this continue.
Right.
We don't know. So once you separate the ballot from the envelope,
right,
you don't know whose ballot it is. You don't know how they voted.
Right.
But when you talk about, was there fraud? Yes. Who benefited from the fraud? Was it me? No. Was it Castor? Yes. Because she won,
right,
by absentee ballots, and a whole bunch of them. But if you eliminate all those ballots, and on the days where ballots were issued when the system was broken, and you remove all that, I win. Hands down. Probably by as much as 100,000 ballots.
All right. I want to take a brief break, and then we're going to return to this. So, Rocky, common sense would seem to dictate that in a state where Trump and Rick Scott won the 24 election by what percentage?
They won by a whole lot, but we believe
13, 14%, right?
Yeah, I think that those are the right numbers.
Right.
But they still lost by the absentee ballots. I mean, their opponents had more absentee ballots than he did.
Right.
But it was too big to rig.
Right.
Mine wasn't.
Yours wasn't because of an on-off switch.
That's right.
And who's in control of that on-off switch?
I don't know.
And why do you need an on-off switch on a system that's supposed to safeguard against this?
Agreed. So one of the things that we're in the process of developing is a foundation, and it's 501c3. It's a think tank, and the first issue that we're addressing is election integrity. So with all of the hidden clones in the voter rolls, you have to wipe them clean to get rid of everything, then start afresh. So, but what no one is saying is, what is that? Are we going to use the same database again? You're just going to end up with the same thing again.
No.
So my foundation, its intent is to build the voter roll database that has the latest cybersecurity available. But no matter what kind of cybersecurity you put on there, it can be, hacked.
Right.
So the real protection comes in the checks and balances, and like in the military, certain documents that are very sensitive in nature have what's called TPI, which is two-person integrity. Mm-hmm. No one person can have that document. Right. Two people have to be in with it all the time, and then the safe where it goes in has two different combinations for that one safe. So I want to implement not TPI because I don't think it's enough. I think you need at least 4-person. It has to be recorded. There's a lot of ideas that we've come up with, including going to the Treasury Department to ask them to help us design a serialization process for the ballots. So one ballot, one person.
Right.
Well, the problem with that is you have to figure out how to protect the identity of the person who owns the ballot. Has to be a protected database, because you don't want, although I don't know that it's written anywhere in the Constitution that says you get to be anonymous in your voting. I don't understand,
It wouldn't.
So, but I think there's enough folks that would want it to be anonymous that we'd have to come up with something. But those are all easily done, but it's establishing the right database, the serialization of the ballots, and now we have protected with the checks and balances in place. Now we've protected the integrity of the election. Is someone going to figure out how to cheat? Probably, but it'll be a long time before they're able to, especially if you put the type of protections on that, on those databases and the system that brings in that data. Supervisors of elections can go in. So this is another anomaly that we found. That database I was telling you about for the absentee ballots is updated, and it's multiple versions of it done by the date. And so we have folks that downloaded a copy before the election, another copy before the election, copy on the day of the election, and 2 weeks after the election. It is illegal to change anything in that database. However, if you go back to the date of the election and 2 weeks later, there are multiple hundreds of ballots that were no identification, and they were changed to YN or NY.
Right.
And we have the two databases to put up side by side to prove it. So again, is someone going to care enough to stand up? Because you don't know who's involved. I mean, that's the other side of this, is that you don't know who's involved.
Well, hold on. We know that the prom queen from Benghazi showed up the Friday before.
That's another real question mark. Why?
Talk about that.
Why did Hillary Clinton show up on the Friday before the election into Hillsborough County, where it was clearly red? Trump was going to win Hillsborough County. Rick Scott was leading kind of in Hillsborough County. So the next one down is me. And if you had this huge red wave, Republicans are not known for split ballot. Split ballot means that you vote Republican on this race and Democrat on this race, and Republicans typically vote right down the ballot. And if you don't like a Republican, you don't vote in the race. But it's sacrilegious to vote for a Democrat.
Look, I stood at Bloomingdale Library with a Republican voter guide, right? And all those people, it's interesting to me that you were talking about the demographics of this, because people say, I don't need the voter guide. I'm voting right down the Republican side of this thing, right? And Hispanics overwhelmingly this time. And, Steve was keeping account at Bloomingdale. We were up by thousands every day until the last Friday. Then the last Friday, the Dems were in a freak out, and they got out the vote. But just my own little polling of dealing with Hispanic people, they're no on 4, no on abortion, no on Kathy Castor, and especially because she has voted against the Survivability Act, that if a fetus survives an abortion, that they have to be kept alive because they're a viable human being. No, she wants them to be terminated or left alone to die.
It is, and I'm a Christian. I don't apologize for it. I'm pro-life. I don't apologize for that. And it hurts my soul to know that someone who's an elected official who represents this region, this district, would vote no on something so important. I believe that life begins at conception, that the flash of light. Why would there be a flash of light? It's God sending a message.
Right.
So I don't understand it. And that's why I could have just as easily said after this election, that's it, I'm out. But I can't, because all of the things that I fought against on Kathy Castor are still there.
That's right.
She voted against stopping men from playing in women's sports. She voted against the Lake and Riley Act, which is to hold someone who commits a serious crime, in detention till they can be researched. She voted against closing the border.
Right.
She published an article on her weekly thing that she does a few weeks ago. I mean, it was more than a few weeks ago. No, it was just a couple of weeks ago. And she was talking about that that President Trump released all these J6ers who beat up cops and hurt people and are insurrectionists. And I've loved being able to respond to that one. And so we put out a press release that, are you kidding me? You voted to keep the border open. How many people have you killed by letting people in that don't belong in here?
Right.
And by the way, the J6 thing is going to come out. The light's going to shine on it.
Sure is.
And we're gonna know exactly what happened, and the FBI is gonna be stuck with, they're gonna get caught red-handed. But anyway, so yeah, Castor is bad. The job of a representative in the U.S. House of Representatives is to take the good ideas from your constituents, and write a bill. But when you write the bill, you need to build a coalition around it, so it'll help its chances of being of succeeding in the House, and you need to be thinking about crossing the aisle, and that coalition needs to include folks in the Senate, because once the House passes the bill, it's going to go to the Senate. So you have to, do your thing. So in 20 years in Congress, 19, whatever it is, How many bills has Kathy Castor been the primary sponsor for that were passed, that became law? And that number is 3. 2 of those were to rename post offices. Okay, nothing wrong with that, but that's not much substance there.
Right.
And the other one was about children, special needs children receiving some help. But it doesn't matter what it was, because the fact is that she had one in 19 years. One bill passed 19 years. Right. Although she has written other bills, but they don't go anywhere. They die in committee. I went in and I looked at every bill she's ever submitted. And when you go over to the co-sponsor list, they're all Democrats. Occasionally you'll see a spattering of Republicans, but that's not how you do it. That's not how you get things done. Me and my team, we have probably, I don't know, on the ballpark of 6 or 7 bills that we're ready to go. And one of those is term limits. Nobody can see, everyone has tried, but no one has succeeded. So, because they never came to talk to me.
Well, you got an interesting twist on it.
I do.
Because you know who you're dealing with up there.
Yeah, I mean, Congress is never going to write their own pink slips. They're never going to write themselves out of a job.
Right.
So you write the bill that grandfathers them in. It does not necessarily solve the problem today, but it most certainly solves it tomorrow. So Congress, once you're elected, once the bill passes, you can stay until you get voted out.
Stay the Mitch McConnell route.
That's it. Die in office, whatever it is. You can stay as long as you want. And then, but if you do get voted out or anyone new comes in, then they are subject to the rule. And how many years? A lot of people ask me, well, how many years? That doesn't matter. What matters is that's going to have to be negotiated, right? And for me to say 8, 12, again, that's not the relevant point. The relevant point is to get a law in there so we get term limits.
Right.
And then we can mess around with the dates and the times and all that at a later date and get people to agree to it.
So a bill for term limits. Talk to us about the Lake and Riley Act.
You're thinking the
Children's Bill of Rights.
Oh, right. So I'd like to have a bill that is exactly that. It's the Children's Bill of Rights. There are a lot of laws out there that are written that are supposed to protect children, and a lot of the newer bills are about cybersecurity and social medias and all that to protect children against wrongful exposure and sexual content, et cetera, et cetera. So we need to move all of those bills under one roof. And Riley Gaines Act is another one that protects women's sports. Now, I know the president just signed something about Title IX, but my personal opinion is it doesn't belong in Title IX. That's a stretch. It doesn't talk about sports in Title IX, so I just don't think it fits very well. I think we have a freestanding bill that will fall inside the Children's Bill of Rights.
So, I mean, the president's written an executive order saying no biological males in women's sports. But as soon as another president comes in, he can just knock that out.
Correct. So that's why I
right.
want to write that. I want to write that bill, and I want to make sure that it, and immigration is probably going to be the hardest bill to write because it's a very complicated issue. You saw the president's stance on illegal birthing rights here in the states, that you come in illegally and you don't automatically, the child doesn't actually become a citizen.
Birthright citizenship.
Right. So
that's going to have to go to the Supreme Court.
Probably. But the simple way to look at that is if you read the Constitution, it says it has the word standing. And I had a long talk with Peter Tickton about this, and we both agree that as an illegal immigrant in the country, you do not have standing.
Right.
So therefore, you cannot invoke rights that are for those with standing when you don't have any. But again, it'll go to the Supreme Court, and I'm fairly confident the Supreme Court is not going to allow that to stand.
Look, that bill was written for the children born of freed slaves, so that they could determine that those kids were U.S. citizens. And it's a total abuse of what's going on now. As you say, those folks entered illegally. Therefore, they don't have standing to apply birthright citizenship. And of course, the libs are going to scream from the ramparts that that's not the case. And, let's hope we have a good day at the Supreme Court.
Another area that is obviously very important to me is the veterans programs, and I believe that the VA is the largest healthcare provider on the planet, and I go to the VA, and I like what the VA does. There are areas that it needs improvement, especially in the mental care area.
Right.
I think that the screening process needs to be completely revamped, and we need to be able to get folks that need the help right away. I work with right here in Tampa, the pastor who runs the Veterans Compound. What's the name of the organization?
It's a call to you, Jamie, the pastor that runs the veterans program in Tampa.
It'll come to us. Anyway, so I
inject.
I support him and what he's doing there, because he's helping get veterans off of the streets. Homelessness is not specific to our community, but it is here.
Right.
There's an estimate of 5,000 to 6,000, and I think that's a low ball of homeless living on the streets here. And I believe that there's a solution in there, but you have to, when you develop a solution, to me, you got to develop it with in mind that it has to be able to pay for itself. You're going to need federal funding to get it off of the ground, but I believe the tiny houses has a place to be able to help get at least families off of the streets.
Right.
And the VA has programs to be able to get veterans off of the streets. And then you've got those who don't want to come off of the streets. We did Christmas time. We did 3 events in a week where we brought dinner to three different locations. And the second one was, these are the real homeless people. And there were about 70 in there. And I asked the question, how many of you won't have a roof over your head tonight? And about half of them put their hands up.
Wow.
And I believe that we as a society have failed if we are unable to care for those most in need. And I don't mean give them a handout. I mean give them a hand up. You got to be able to help them, because again, there are those who don't want to come off of the streets, and they want to maintain that lifestyle.
Jamie has the name of the pastor.
It's Pastor Tom with New Beginnings.
New Beginnings, that's
New
it.
Beginnings.
New Beginnings, the veterans program. And I'm not going to go over my entire platform with you, but there's one other one that really gets in my craw, and frustrates me to no end. And that's the housing, what's going on in the housing world and the housing. So the single family home housing market belongs to the people.
Mm-hmm.
It does not belong to corporations. However, corporations are buying houses, and hedge funds are buying houses like there's no tomorrow. And you can go watch the news and you'll see it. There's no inspection, there's no nothing. We'll buy your house, we'll give you cash today.
Right.
And then what they do is instead of flipping it to sell it back out, they put minor improvements and rent it out. and we were helping this young woman in Sulphur Springs that had I think it was her brother that had physical needs. He was physically disabled, and she went to the county for help, or I don't remember if it was the county or the city, and they said, you have too much equity in your house. You have to sell your house. So she did, and she sold it to one of those companies, and they turned around and rented it back to her at 4 times what her mortgage payment was.
Right.
So what happened to her? She became homeless.
Right.
So we had to help her get off of the street again. It boggles the mind of what we're doing to ourselves. And when you look at all of these programs that I want to help implement and all that, there's one common thread amongst all of them, or almost all of them, and that's a lack of ethics. There is no ethics when it comes to businesses. They're out for themselves, and they shouldn't be. And I've gone back and looked at the research and done what I can to find, what happened in the past. And you go back to the start of the industrial age, corporations were about taking care of people and taking care of, and there were the slave laborers out there, but here in America there weren't many of them. And then as businesses grew and as time, and we continued the growth and expansion of our industrial age, the companies just became, this ethics just slowly evaporated, and now they pray to the almighty dollar, and that's it. There's the only God, and I really think that, and I see a lot of that in what Trump is trying to do. I see that he's trying to, make your products here in the U.S. because it's good for the U.S. It's not the best for your bottom line, but that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is taking care of us, we, the people. This is our country.
Well, he's speaking to them via tariffs.
I love it,
You
too.
don't get it?
Oh, I love it.
Have a spanking. And they come to Jesus very quickly.
He's got an ulterior motive with everything. Every one of these wild and crazy ideas, like yesterday, the Gaza thing.
Yeah.
I don't know that one. I haven't figured out where his aha moment is in that one. But clearly the tariff, all he's doing is
Pure trolling.
You remember the acronym DIME?
Yes.
So it's the powers of a country, diplomat, information, financial, economic, right?
Military.
Military, economic.
Right.
So tariffs is economic. He's just using that as a piece of power,
Right.
with never intention of actually enacting any of the tariffs. And if he does, it would only be temporary,
Right.
because they don't want it. That hurts.
Right.
But it is the trade deficit that's driving that. And it's such a simple thing. Don't allow these countries to trade deficit us.
Right.
Period. We should be in neutral ground. You shouldn't make more money than us. So anyway, that's kind of where we are. The outcome, hopefully we'll know something within the next couple of months.
What do you think your chances are? I mean, most of the time when people attempt to do this, the case gets placed before a liberal judge, and it's a slow crawl to nothing. You think that's the case in Tallahassee?
Tallahassee is, I don't know the judge. I don't know her. We've only been to one hearing via Zoom, and I don't know. I will tell you that of all the cases that were brought before judges across the state of Florida with fraud, I think I'm the last man standing. I think they've all been thrown out. Most of them, like Chris Gleason he was running for supervisor of elections in Pinellas County. His case got thrown out and with prejudice and was sealed, because some folks try to throw too much onto it. I'm just trying to establish that there was fraud. Let the experts go figure out where it was. But when you say there was fraud, and then you say that there was,
And this is how it was done.
yeah, this is how it was done, and then the machines were this, and I mean, it's like whoa,
Very easy for them to pick apart, to find a weak link in that.
It is. So all I want to do is establish, look, this looks like fraud. Walks like a duck, smells like a duck, sounds like a duck. Guess what? It's a duck. So that's what we're hopeful for. Now that's Florida. The U.S. House is run by Republicans right now. Mm-hmm. So you're not going to see, even though the committee that will oversee this investigation, it will be bipartisan, but it will still have a Republican majority.
So the hope is that you're going to prove not just your case in District 14, but that's going to open it up for review of the entire state. And then the state becomes an example for other states to do the same thing.
That's exactly right. And that's exactly what the lawsuit with the state is about. The one with the state says, all we want you to do, judges, say there was fraud. And we've asked for a jury trial.
So that makes it incredibly important for the Democrats to strangle this thing in the crib, as they are wont to do.
Yep, and they may well succeed. But what we've done is we did the Florida case. We removed Kathy Castor from it. She's not. We don't think that. We don't know if she was involved in the fraud. She's the one who benefited from it, but does she know?
It's not important to prove that.
No, it's not, because all we have done is removed one more person that wants to kill this case. Right. So Kathy Castor's out of that one, and she's the only plaintiff on the one at the House. So it's me against Kathy Castor. But you're exactly right. What this does is not only does this help fix the voter rolls across the country, but it's going to help uncover, because now we have it in writing, and now we can go after all the other elections that failed because of fraud. Now, what's going to happen? Well, your guess is as good as mine.
Listen, we refer to the president as Cat 5 Trump, and every day that hurricane is uncovering more and more and more. And I think it's all in your favor.
We have since we started this, it was almost on a daily basis we would find more anomalies in the voter rolls. For example, we found this one, but we don't know its validity or whether it means. So when there's less than 29 people in one precinct who voted, it won't tell you, when you break it down, Republican, Democrat, it won't tell you if it's less than 29. It puts a dash or whatever. And so you don't know why someone chose 29. I have no idea. But when you look at all of these precincts together and you add them up, and there's 4 columns, and they're all dashes, which means it has to be less than 29. So 29 times 4 is 78, something like that, right? 30, 69, 80.
120 minus 4, so 116.
So yes, you're right. Sorry. Math in the back of a napkin. So if these were all dashes, it would have to be less than that.
Right.
But we've seen huge numbers, 400, 500.
Right.
So how do they get dashes in here? It doesn't make any sense. These things by themselves don't make a case, but when you start adding them up, it only makes it stronger, and only makes it stronger to think that I was robbed.
Yeah. And look, I have great hope in watching these hearings for Trump's cabinet appointees, that the Democrats were relentless at trying to get a yes or no answer from them. Do you believe that the 2020 election was stolen? And they were all coached by Mike Davis to say, I believe that Joe Biden is the legal president of the United States. And they will not answer it. And the fact that the Dems are so crazed to try to entrap people with that question tells me that they're worried about it. Because the thing that you're trying to find out is the thing that they want to find out about 2020. And there's a reason why 2 million people showed up in Washington, D.C. on January 6th. And it was not to have an insurrection.
So this past year, I went to a debate. I don't remember the name of the organization that had it. And I was asked, we were all up on stage and asked the same question. And was asked point blank, do you believe that the 2020 election was stolen? Mm-hmm. And I said, I wasn't there. I haven't seen, I didn't do the counting. I have heard people say that there was absolutely no question there was fraud, and I've heard people say there wasn't fraud. I pray to God that someday we'll all know the real truth, but I don't know the truth. And that's how I answered it.
Well, you want to put any money on Mike Pence?
Oh boy, I don't know. I don't know. That might be a tough
Listen,
bet.
it's going to be a huge issue. It's going to be a huge issue in the next 12 months. And J6 is going to kick that all off. Because that's the only reason J6 happened. That's the only reason that 2 million Americans showed up, was because they didn't buy it. The same evidence that you're talking about of seeing Trump signs in neighborhoods. Talk with people all over the country. They weren't seeing anything but Trump signs in their areas. And how does a guy get beat who's doing sometimes 5 rallies a day?
Oh yeah,
I mean, it's inhuman. And the numbers were staggering against a guy hiding in his basement and occasionally coming out to talk to 300 people in 6 circles. I mean,
and Trump, and to me the best part is I went to CPAC last year and I listened to Trump, and he doesn't get up there and talk for 5 or 6 minutes. He talks for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and he's got a teleprompter. I stood right behind the control desk, and I could see his teleprompter, and I could watch him read from the script, and you could tell when he goes off script, and how he's jumping around, and the guy on the keyboard is trying to keep up with him, and it's because all of a sudden it'll go and then it'll go back the other way, and so it's very entertaining to watch. But yeah, he talks for a long time.
Yeah,
and I don't know how he does it.
Yeah, I don't know what the worst job is, being the air traffic controller down in D.C. or Trump's guy on that teleprompter. But you actually had an interesting insight after the tragedy down there between the military helicopter and the commercial jet. You're saying move Anacostia air traffic out of there.
Yeah, there's no reason for it. I mean, it's already a very congested area. You have 3 major airports that are right there: DCA, Baltimore, and Dulles. And you don't need the military. They have Andrews Air Force Base, which is right outside the Beltway. The Maryland, and that whole part of Maryland, very little air traffic. So that's a perfect place. Let them go over there. Why they're there is beyond me. I know that they do some of the Marine Corps One work at Anacostia, but by and large, the military should not be flying in there. I mean, we don't know what happened. I mean, I'm very anxious to know what happened.
They're very quiet about what happened.
They are. I mean, he was saying that, Trump was saying the other day that he was too high, But if you look at the guy who got arrested for releasing the video from the airport, to say that he was at 200 feet, or was supposed to be at 200 feet, but he was at 350, I don't know. What was his altitude? I don't know. I mean, it doesn't look. And 150 to 350 to 200. That's this much in the distance. So how do you know? I don't know. I don't know. If they had NVGs on, that's the one that I know that would be, because we've used those before.
Night vision goggles for everybody.
Yeah, when you walk into a place where there's a lot of light, you wash it out. You can't see anything.
Right.
You can't see anything. So, and if you got them on and you get wiped and you take them off of your, flip them up, your eyes have to adjust. It's not instantaneous. Your eyes have to adjust to that. I mean, we've used those when I was in the beach group. We're landing LCACs at night. So yeah, I don't know. Hopefully the truth will come out, and all those folks that died will be vindicated. So,
and what's your projection for the midterms? Do we only have this Trump pink bubble, red bubble, for another 18 months?
If we, I would say, the Naval War College great response to that question is it depends. And if we're able to wipe the voter rolls and start over and get rid of all the fraud, there are some estimates that half of the Democrats who are in the U.S. House of Representatives wouldn't be there in the first place.
I believe that.
So part of me believes that they made themselves very close to the majority by cheating. So they're not necessarily have that majority. The Republicans, the common sense in America is the common sense in America. I mean, you either have it or you don't. And the media only shows you what will make them sell more, whatever they're selling in their commercials. So I've been saying this about the media for decades, that they are nothing more than a business, and they're trying to make money. And the way you do that is if it bleeds, it leads. That's just what they do. So all my friends in media are not going to talk to me anymore.
Well, look, I think we're going to find out that it's a lot closer to what's going on in China, where there's 5 families, 100 people controlling 3 billion. And I can't wait for all this to be found out. And I bet you he's going to put the arm on Elon and say, Elon, you're the resident genius here. Come up with a closed voting system that is unhackable.
Well, that's what I want my foundation to do.
So,
I want to, because I have built the team. 2 of them have masters in cybersecurity. I have 2 PhDs one's in processing, and the other's in something else.
probably database.
Mathematics, I think.
Yeah.
And so I believe that we have the right, because you don't want too big of a team. You want to make sure that this is the right size team to be able to build this, so you don't get stuck in the bureaucracy of too big to manage.
Right.
And you have to stay away from mission creep. So that's the other piece of this is you see these things slowly and surely expand and expand and expand. But I do think that we need to have one ballot, one person, and it needs to be serialized, just like your Social Security number.
Yep.
It's serialized to you.
So that before the election, we know exactly how many voters are voting.
And when you go back to the ballot, you know exactly when and where it was made,
Right.
when it was printed, who printed it.
Yep.
I mean, all that's on the dollar bill.
Yep.
So I think this is a way to do this. I just have to. So there's a committee in the House that does. They provide the research. They're a research committee.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, I think I have it right here. Republican Study Committee. And so we're going to reach out to the chairman and see if he'll let us get a go at it, because I think we could do it. We could do it for the right amount of money and do something good for our country.
Well, if we don't fix our elections, we won't have a country.
No, for sure.
And we
But
came
I think
very close to that this past.
I agree, but I think I think that there's enough data out there to support that it was really bad, and we have to now we know we have to fix it. Before there were people who were like, well, there's nothing wrong with the system. Before I ran for this office, I too believed that there was that there wasn't as much fraud as people say there was. Now I believe that we haven't even scratched the surface on it.
We haven't. You know what? Trump created Space Force in his first term so that he'd be ready for the 2020 election and be ready to capture all the cyber files on what happened. He's got all the receipts. And this is going to be, you can sell popcorn all day for what's coming. It's going to be unbelievable. And I think they're going to be able to come up with a closed voting system, and then everything you've been talking about will come true. And all of these things are going to be more and more important for you winning your case and becoming the congressman for the 14th district.
So I do believe that, that Trump wants to do the holiday and everybody votes on one day, and the Democrats are going to fight against that. But if we fix the system, we could do absentee ballots. We could continue early voting, and because the system's protected now,
Right.
and that I believe we can do. So I'm not sure that we need to go to. I'd still like to see it. I'd still like to see us go to a, holiday and let everybody go vote on that day.
Yep.
Maybe eliminate early voting or some of the early voting, or whatever. I think that there's a mix in there somewhere that's going to make the majority of people happy.
Yeah.
So I thank you and your team. I would ask people that are watching that you gotta go onto our Facebook page. You got to go onto our Twitter account, and you got to like us, and you got to comment, and you got to repost everything you see, because the algorithms of that commercial from the 80s about the shampoo, and they tell two friends, and so on and so on and so on. That's exactly how social media works. And if you don't repost everything that you see that you like, then it clogs the system, and you don't get that algorithm to catch everything and make you huge. Right. So that we need that help. We contact your senator, your House of Representative person, and tell them about what's going on here, and let's get the momentum. And then of course, if you can, our campaign. I spent most of the campaign was my own money. And that's all gone. So helping me in with this fight, and you can do that on our website. You can do that on there's a GoFundMe site for this. So there's a number of places you can reach out to me on the website. There's a comment button. That comment comes directly to me. So I please help. I need the help.
So where do people find you?
Oh, the website is www.rocky4congress.com.
Rocky4congress.com.
Yes, sir.
And from there, they can get to the Facebook page and everything else.
Yeah, I believe that we have all those links at the bottom, but they're all Rocky for Congress.
Okay.
Hashtag Rock. Is it hashtag? No, it's at Rocky for Congress on Twitter.
Okay.
So yeah.
All right.
Well, I'm excited. I mean, I hope to come back and visit you again with a new title. So
absolutely. Yeah.
So.
And a bunch of bills in progress.
There it is.
Okay.
There it is.
It's all good.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate
Rocky,
it.
thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure having you.
Thanks.